Hello there, and welcome to episode 10 of the Not So Casual Gamer podcast. Lewis, we did it. We're at episode 10. We can stop now. No, I'm just kidding. 10. Yeah, what a momentous milestone.
Yes.
I feel like that's that's the first hurdle. You know what I mean? That's it. We're officially podcasters.
Double
figures. Only took 20 weeks. See what I did there? Maths.
Yes.
And only one lost episode in 10.
It's a good
track record so far. Hopefully no more. How are you doing today?
Yes. Shielding away from the heat so that I don't melt during this episode.
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, ready to rant again. This is going to be... I know I'm becoming sort of infamous for ranting and hot takes and controversial opinions, but...
That's what we love you for.
This is possibly going to be the biggest one yet.
Yeah, I was kind of having a think before sort of, planning this episode, and I had, I've got some points I want to be making, but, then you told me, I've got multiple sides A4 written. I was like, oh, okay, right. So I think this will be one where I'll go with your flow, I think, for this one here. But as the title suggests, we're going to be talking about our video games becoming too bloated. But I think we've got a wee bit to talk about before we jump into that. We've been playing quite a lot of games of late. A couple of standout ones that
I think actually this portion. And actually following on from the previous episode in some ways is going to be quite a logical continuation. Just because this is still going to be quite heavily Xbox/Game Pass related in terms of what we've been playing.
Yes. Yeah.
And also just, I think, strands of thought that I have particularly run through that still.
Cool.
So,
I see what you mean.
But we'll start with... because I know what you've been playing for the most part kind of isn't related to this though, but still it's...
Well, actually, you say that, but
or maybe it is.
There's a little bit of it that kind of is, which is interesting. So we can kind of... I think we'll find it quite easy to segue into our topic after speaking a little bit about what we've been playing.
Well, I certainly will.
Well, so I'll go first then. So, if you are at all interested, after the previous episode, I had finished Halo 2. It was the start of the summer holidays. Outside of this, I work in retail. I teach music as well, so I usually fairly busy. But now that the teaching is sort of quieting down for the summer, I've had a few sort of fuller days off where I've kind of had the day to myself. Kerry's been working or no plans in the day, or it's been chucking it with rain. So I've kind of just been, just been jumping in and playing a bunch of games. And when I say a bunch of games, it's the rest of the Halo games. I have played... so I'd finished 2 from the last episode. I played 3, I played ODST, I played Reach, I played 4, and I played 5. All the campaigns. I will preface this by saying I did play the campaigns on easy mode. I'm not going to pretend that I'm better than I am. And this is the thing. I absolutely could have played all of those games on normal, for sure, no question. But I just wanted to not die and just kind of get through the stories, because I was actually quite immersed in the world, in the Halo world. And mainly my top level thing that I just want to really say about this is that I see why those games were so popular. I do, even jumping back to some of these that are now 14, 15 years old. They were a blast to play through. They were great fun. It was a very well realized world. It was, the Master Chief Collection. I know it's had its problems since launch, but the way I'm playing it now is a very complete package. And it was just a really, really fun time. It was one of those ones where I could have split them up into more days, but I was playing some of these campaigns in one sitting or one day with a break for a bite to eat in between. It wasn't a chore. Started to get a little bit towards the end, and we can talk about that maybe. It kind of brings into our topic today a little bit, the more modern it gets. You can see a modern influence, being brought into the Halo games that for some reasons better and for some reasons worse. But I actually, I was expecting, at the start of it, I was expecting, to really, be more enamored with the newer games because they would be more modern and struggle through the older ones. And weirdly enough, it was the complete opposite of that. Halo 5, for example, was...
It's a good thing.
It's a great thing. It shows that, you could probably put these, if we were to redo our Timeless Classics game, even having played it once with no nostalgia for it, I could see these games being, definitely in that Timeless Classic conversation for sure. And,
2 is really the standout though, right?
Two and 3 were definitely and Reach. Those were my sort of 3 standouts for sure.
Right.
4 was that was the first 343 game, and I actually really enjoyed it. It felt, and actually in kind of looking at retrospectives, I can see why Halo fans weren't as big a fan of it. But for me, it definitely felt, still like a Halo game. But also, I'm coming in with the caveat that I wasn't playing any of these multiplayer suites as well. I've actually since played some of it and had a blast, and that's again a little bit of a topic for the rest of the episode, because there's some bits in there that I do want to go into with the multiplayer. But but 5, it was really weird. It was actually, it completely changed the button inputs. It had aim down sights on the left trigger. It had, it felt like a Call of Duty game. You were reloading with what would be square, but X and stuff, and sliding with sliding and jumping. It actually felt like a modern Call of Duty game, which at the beginning I would have asked you from Halo, and then by the end of playing it, I was like, no, I don't want this. That's what I've got Call of Duty for. This had its own identity to me, which was very interesting, to kind of go through that. And also the story was definitely the worst out of all of them, with 5. And since playing it, I actually looked up the sort of pre-release trailer hype was setting that up to be a very, very different game. I got told not to watch any trailers before I played it, and I was kind of like, I wonder why. And then after I played it, I went and watched the trailers and went, oh, yeah. they were teasing a game that did not exist at all with that. So, yeah.
Good old Microsoft.
Yeah, just really, But I have to say that's definitely been a real fun time, a real positive with that, and I've found myself really, enjoying sort of diving into the extended universe of Halo a little bit more. Not to the, I'm not reading the novels, I'm not doing that, but jumping into the complete Halo timeline in 30 minutes on YouTube, just like watching videos like that and finding it interesting, and yeah, so that's been my main sort of gaming bit. I've dabbled in a couple of different games. We were talking about Human Fall Flat last episode, so I've checked out that as well and had a great time. Bit more Tetris Effect, quite a lot of Xbox stuff, still a lot of Warzone, and I said I was buying Ratchet and Clank last time, and I've just decided, which is ironic.
Made a U-turn.
Well, I made a U-turn. I was just really itching to play more Halo for some reason that day after I woke up, because I had that day off. I was going to get...
You've got to follow the itch.
You do, you do, absolutely. So at the moment, I'm quite happy to just... I played a lot of games, from start to finish in a short space of time. So I'm quite happy just to go back to fairly casual, multiplayer only right now, and I'll sort of jump into Ratchet when the itch needs scratched, as it were. So that's been my rundown.
When the itchy needs scratched. Oh God, I can't believe I just did that. Sorry.
That's all good. So yep, I know I've officially played all the campaigns, and I've even played multiplayer and had a grand old time, and we'll talk about that later. So, Liz, I know what you've been playing, but
let me just say, actually, the more I've thought about it, the more it's not totally surprising that you've gotten so into Halo, just because it's obviously sort of very futuristic, spacefaring, sci-fi based.
Yep.
Which, being a massive Star Wars fan, it's not a million miles away from such a thing. And
actually, as it started off, I mentioned it. It felt a little bit almost like a rip-off of it, but it definitely took its own direction, and that's when I really started to appreciate it.
And with me, it's like I've never been that much of a fan of such things unless it's horror based. There's something about the tearing down and darkening of the sort of sterility. Sterility, is that a word?
Yeah.
Sterileness.
Sterile nature.
Of that, which has appealed to me, obviously. Dead Space.
Yeah.
Whatever. But, yeah, and just obviously not being a huge fan of shooters over the years either. Put those things together, Halo just doesn't... like we've talked about this to death now, Halo, but I will play Infinite probably when it comes out.
Yeah, I'm now like I'm really excited for it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I'm happy that you're hyped for that because it's it makes me feel more and more justified about our jump into the Xbox.
Same.
Sphere.
That was definitely like my big thing that if we just got those Xboxes now, if in the future it's really just Forza and Halo and a couple other third-party games that I'll jump into on Game Pass, I've already had my enjoyment's worth out of the thing. Not just with Halo, of course, with many other things and many other things we still need to play. It has definitely been a justified purchase, that's for sure.
I still can't see the train stopping in terms of just sampling loads of different things, and
me too.
And it's just a lot of different things that I wouldn't have thought of that are like even this month you've got Flight Simulator.
Yep.
Coming out. I'm looking forward to that.
Hades?
And also, I'm not into that one.
You're not into Hades?
No.
Thought you would have been.
I'm more. There's a kind of quite a smattering of similar games like that are coming soon to Game Pass. The only one for me is The Ascent.
Okay.
Maybe, but even then, it's like I've kind of gone over this, but these kind of smaller. I don't even know what you call them, but they really need to grab me.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Like what I'll go into for example, my quota for I was going to say, oh fuck it, what are they called again? Not Transylvanias. What are they called?
Metroidvanias. Transylvanias. Does that mean that Metroid in your mind is actually called Super Transl or something?
It must be.
Just by that logic, you are a Transl Prime fan.
God, yeah. How about that?
Yeah, there you go.
My quota for such things is filled for like the next 5 years
fair.
At least.
No, that's fair.
And it takes so much for me to get into these. I mean, it's that way where I kind of can't. I couldn't tell you too much about what Hades even is right now, but for me and what my preferences are, like briefly jumping on to looking into stuff about it and looking at screenshots or whatever, I remind myself, oh yeah, no, I'm not interested.
Fair.
I'm not interested until I am.
Yeah, and then it might be a little hidden gem and you don't know it.
I don't know. It takes, like I say, it takes a lot for that style of game, which I can't remember quite what that is at this very moment in time. But I know that what it is. This is really hard for me to describe, but Hades.
Just dig yourself out the hole. We can just move on if you need to.
Which I'm always constantly doing, of course. But I know what I mean, and you're just gonna have to live with that. No, I'm more into like Psychonauts 2.
Okay.
Is coming out soon.
Yeah.
Sort of almost like Xbox's Ratchet and Clank, kinda almost.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Just looks worse.
Well, no, it's actually coming to PlayStation as well, isn't it?
Of course, yeah, but you'll obviously not be buying it there. If it's a day one Game Pass kind of vibe.
But then I think because Double Fine have been acquired by Xbox, so future games.
Yeah. So you're going to want to kind of
from them will not be
invest in that platform for sure. Right, what have you been playing? What have you been playing?
Oh God, right, okay. For the most part, so like I was talking about Metroidvanias, Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Will of the Wisps, yes.
And Doom Eternal. Let me just first go on to Ori. So I tried the first one back at the start of Game Pass, and I was kind of like, nah. Like it is kind of just that. Obviously, it's a Metroidvania, and we sort of said, this probably looked beautiful at the time. But, it's like, if a game has really standout visuals just now, it's almost like I've now got this expectation of HDR.
Yeah.
I know that sounds really kind of pathetic and dorky. And I know I absolutely don't need that in all of my games. Like, it's just that for what this is as a production, for me to enjoy it to its fullest extent, I kind of need these elements to be, because like I said, I'm not that interested generally in Metroidvanias.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when one comes along, like Guacamelee, for example, which is very similar to this, very, very similar to Guacamelee, there has to be other things about it. The actual, shall I say, the art of it, the product, the production has to all be there. Otherwise, I'm not interested.
Yeah, fair.
Because it's kind of, I had an analogy actually for this. It was like, it's a really weird analogy, but when Thriller came out, right, in 1982, Michael Jackson, bear with me.
I remember it well.
Yep. I feel like pop Michael Jackson fans at the time, right, he was trying to introduce other bits of genres into that album, which is part of what made it so successful. But it was almost like, for his pop and sort of whatever light, easy listening fans to enjoy face melting rock, it had to be kind of eased in. Mm-hmm. It was like it was all part of the grand production. The production was what made it, right?
Yes.
Of all these elements, and that is how I feel about something like Ori. It's going to be very occasional for me as to why I like games like this, and it really is, to me, the most stellar example.
Okay.
Because it even did things in it which was like it tugs at the heartstrings,
Nice.
which is very hard for games to do for me. By the way, like Last of Us, I can only think of The Last of Us right now. Other than this, seriously, I can only, because storytelling, as we've discussed many times in different guises for games, is it's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
So whenever it does it well, I appreciate that, and it's just spectacular visually, and fun to play. Although it did start to get really frustrating, and I played this on easy. You were talking about playing on easy, right? I played both this and Doom Eternal on easy. I was like, I just want to experience what these are, and get through them. And even then, I was getting frustrated with both of them. They both started to become a slog. Not to the point that I gave up. But no, I finished Ori and it was great. But my thing is, and how it ties into this episode, it's too damn long, man. It's too damn long. Come on.
Yeah, I get that.
I'm like, who has? Now, clearly, lots of dorks have the time for this stuff. They love these games and they eat them up for dinner every night, and they 100% them. I can't imagine 100% these games. Come on.
Yeah.
I think my total completion at the end was like 52% or something.
All right, okay.
And I'm just like, why can't we have Metroidvanias in this style that just don't have so much in them? Like, just craft your tight sort of 10-hour Metroidvania and just give it to us and say, here's our banging game that you've just ran through.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, okay, some gamers will call me reductionist and be like, well, that's why you just like go and play Inside. That's what Inside is. You just run through it and see what it has to offer. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
But no, like that wasn't. It's not. It's only had a slight issue for me in terms of the main topic today. But it was getting to the point, and more so with Doom. Doom was a slog. It was, in my opinion, too long. Like those games like that, right? Just gory, fast combat. And it's actually why I'm not going to go back and play Wolfenstein 2. I actually had a realization. I was like, kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Not interested.
Yeah, I get that.
I won't be playing that. I played the first one, enjoyed it at the time. Don't need that.
There's a definite like through line of those Bethesda games at that point in time being kind of designed in a very similar way. I do remember the comparisons between Wolfenstein 2 and Doom Eternal with
Rage as well, I guess.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. Rage was actually an interesting segue into Rage 2 with video games being too bloated, or just being filled with things that just don't really need to be there, that are just sort of falsely, or maybe that's not the word, but just extending the runtime for no real reason. Doom Eternal, do you think there's an element of the fact that you were kind of playing these two games simultaneously? I'm not saying there's any similarity, but do you think you kind of, do you think if you just played one of them, you maybe would have thought that a little bit less of either of them?
My logic for doing that, and deciding that I was going to actually commit to Game Pass games this time, because they were kind of newer and they were that more kind of fully realized recent experience
enhanced
that
for
Game Pass can give us, and it's kind of the real meat and potatoes of it, I think. Well, for me so far, it's kind of not been, but no, these were still good. But okay, so no, I did that to try and vary up the experience that I was having.
I get that.
And not get so immediately kind of exhausted by a game. And I think it just about worked. So I actually, technically, I haven't finished Doom Eternal. I got to the last boss, and I actually, even on easy, I cannot do it. I cannot do it. Everybody knows this. I'm bad at shooters, okay? Even though we had a game of Warzone, my first game in a long time the other night, and we got a win.
Oh, we did. It was great. I beat my personal record, if anyone's wondering. 13 kills. Oh, yeah.
And we will talk more specifically about Warzone, because it is an interesting thing in itself, and we'll go into
we want to do a topic
that
on
area of... Yeah, just...
talk about battle royales in general, and kind of how they've sort of captured the zeitgeist of now. So that's its own topic. We need to do a bit more research into other BRs and stuff, so we'll come back to that. We'll get there down the line, but it's one I'm excited to talk about for sure, because it's not really wavered. My enjoyment of Warzone has not really wavered since. I mean, that's almost been a year now that I've been playing it. End of August that I started playing it, and
crazy.
The fact that I'm still playing a multiplayer game, I'm almost at 1,000 hours played. Which is
COD and Halo obsessed. Who'd have thought?
Who would have thought? We were sort of playing yesterday, and my pal that we were playing with was like, because we were talking about the football as as we were playing, because it was like sort of going on for so long, and he was saying to Kerry, he was like, would you have ever thought a year ago that Sam would be in the middle of a Call of Duty game playing online multiplayer talking about the football? And I was like, I didn't watch the football, but technically I was talking about it. So yes, I would not have...
You couldn't avoid it.
You couldn't avoid it, no. And it's going to Rome.
It's coming, Rome.
It's coming, Rome. We went out for breakfast at a lovely Italian place today, and it was got a nice wee atmosphere. That's what we were saying before. That wasn't unintentional.
Well, hey, silver linings.
Silver linings, absolutely. Okay, well let's kind of segue into
to bring it back around. Yes. Well, just to finish up on Doom, I guess. I just think that it gives you too much to work with for what it is, and is too long, because it literally is just you going into the next similar area and just getting involved in the most chaotic, fast-paced, with Gent playing, just bashing your skull with it the whole way through. And I'm like, this is cool, this is fine, but who honestly wants to be smacked over the head with this for any much longer than 10 hours? Really?
I saw. I would say that Doom 2016 kind of nailed the sort of length, but also the. I mean, I don't think it was too much shorter, but it was the sort of the amount of mechanics in there. It was much more streamlined, I would say. I think they added a lot with Eternal. Mm-hmm. Just in the short time I played it. I mean, I played it and I was like, I'm going to play this, but I'm not actually wanting, like you're saying, to be beat over the head with this right now. So I put it aside, and then the PS5 version's out, so I have downloaded it, and I'm quite interested to properly play it now. So I've played maybe like 2 hours of it so far, but my takeaway was that it was more of the same, but there was like already too much kind of being added in. So I think 2016 or Doom 2016 kind of hit a sort of sweet spot for me for exactly the reasons that you're saying.
It just balanced better.
Yeah, just balanced a bit better. I think it's one of those ones I kind of see it as. I mean, the difficulty is it's hard to see it as this because it has its like story mode, but obviously it doesn't really mean too much. But I kind of see it almost as the like an equivalent to me jumping into like a game of Tony Hawk for half an hour. It's just like when you get that wee itch, you just jump into it and play it. So that's kind of where I see like Doom as like where it sits perfectly. So like a horde mode or just like a level based kind of thing where you can run through and play it is definitely what interests me more about it. The problem is, with something like Eternal, there's all these systems and mechanics to remember that if you take too long away from it, you're going to forget. Do you know what I mean? Like, you are going to forget how to, I mean, obviously point and shoot and run, but there's more, you know, that's why I felt that Doom 2016 was easier to pick up and play than Eternal. Because I took I took a couple of weeks off after playing the first 2 hours, and I'm just at a point now where I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to start it again, because definitely will need a refresher on some of the bits and pieces. But yeah, so are video games becoming too bloated? Lewis, what would you say to that top level question?
Oh hell yes.
Oh hell.
But the thing is that it seems to be only me that cares about that.
I think I care. I think I agree with you up until a certain level. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think there's some ones that I know we share that we're going to talk about, but there's some ones that I know that I'm going to turn around and say to you in this episode, and you'll go, yeah, I still think it's too much, and I defend it.
Totally.
So, which is interesting. So, where do you want to start? You take the lead here, because I'm happy.
Well, you see, the reason that this feels like a natural continuation from the Game Pass episode is that it really has, this last month or so, has really kind of solidified my thoughts on this very thing. Mm-hmm. It's allowed me to sample so many games and realize my true preferences for what I enjoy and look for in games, and actually to be okay with the fact that, like, if I know something is the way it is and has all of these things in it, and it's gonna throw all of it at you, and I'm not gonna enjoy that about it, then I can just let it go.
Yeah,
I can just avoid it, and that's kind of why. Yeah, I'm just kind of like, I don't need to play everything, but it's nice to have tried so much and realized that yeah, I really do prefer tighter focused things. Mm-hmm. And yeah, my God, I've got all my notes. What examples shall we go to first?
Well, there's an obvious example. There's an obvious one that I know we agree on, that we have brought up.
Okay,
on the
tell
podcast.
me.
Well, that is.
Oh, okay, yes, I know. Yeah, Assassin's Creed.
That's your newest generations of Assassin's Creed games.
All right, let's start there. Okay, so I'm going to actually preface the Assassin's Creed chat by saying that I'm assuming you saw the news about what they're planning to do for the next one.
I purposely didn't talk. We were hanging out yesterday. I purposely wanted to save that conversation for today, because this is perfect. I mean, they couldn't have timed this more perfect for us to have
Assassin's Creed Infinite, codenamed Infinite. They are planning to
Infinity or something like that, or whatever.
Or something.
A live service Assassin's Creed game.
Live service where they're going to just sort of add on chunks of, I'm telling you right now, will be soulless bits of gamia.
100%. 100%. It is going to be your equivalent of...
it will mean nothing. You will feel nothing playing this game. It will be devoid of character, devoid of innovation, devoid... I've wrote here, it is the most fitting nadir that this series could have arrived at, okay? It makes so much sense. I'm like, of course this is happening.
Yeah.
Of course this is happening.
Yep.
Assassin's Creed is dead. It is dead, and this is the gravestone that they are building.
Wow. I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, like when I saw the news, I was... no, I mean this I don't mean this in a I'm going to play it way. I'm very intrigued to see it. Like, just to see what it is. I mean, I have an idea. They're comparing it to live service games, like your Destinies and, even like Fortnite and the kind of things that
Sounds terrible.
Oh, for sure.
Sounds like my worst nightmare.
For sure. I mean, but this is the thing. Like, what immediately came to mind was the sort of season-based nature of, let's go for like a personal experience of something like Warzone. We're bringing that up again. They change the map every so often, but obviously they did their, I'm going to go in giant air quotes here, refreshed, new map of Verdansk 84, which was a fresh coat of paint. It was a breath of fresh air, right? That's fine, okay. But like this season, they introduced the satellite crashes. I don't even think we even came across them when we were playing the other night. There's like three. No, they're like, the satellite crashes. It's this big new thing, and I've walked past them. Do you know what I mean? Like they're not engaging new bits of gameplay. The most that they've done of late was the Die Hard, like Nakatomi Tower, like because it's a very interesting like tall building and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's still not really changing anything about the core game, which is good because we like the core game and it's a competitive social thing, but. An Assassin's Creed game, which will probably have some multiplayer elements. I'm guessing by we've not seen much about it or whatever, but it's going to be new areas or a changing map, like a changing city, or going to different timelines, and a new season brings on a new sort of story campaign thing or whatever. But it is going to include a very limited, but a limited set of assets, of development time. I'll tell you right now, when something new, in inverted commas, is added to this game, it's going to feel very recycled. It's going to feel very dull. I'd be so shocked if it didn't. If these story missions in this game don't end up feeling like every side mission that you've played in Assassin's Creed. I mean, just look at something like Fallout 76, like a live service Fallout game. They've had to really sort of claw their way back, and yeah, it's maybe finding its footing now, but it was go to a computer terminal, fetch quests, and just go to another place and loot a dead body and do, Destiny, I specifically remember Destiny 1 had such a problem of fight through these corridor areas. So you go off the slightly, open world elements, fight through these corridor areas, go to a terminal, put your your Dinklebot ghost thing that got replaced by Nolan North into the terminal, and conveniently have to defend Dinklebot for 3 waves of enemies, and then the mission was done. That was it. God,
it was so boring.
That was rinse and repeat.
So boring.
Destiny 2 slightly fixed that, but it still had the same problems. And because it's a live service game, you are inevitably replaying those same missions to farm, new loot and things like that. And I know there is an audience for that. There clearly is an audience for that. But this is, like, if we had any hope of Assassin's Creed going back to its roots, it is completely gone for us. Like, we will never enjoy an Assassin's Creed. I'd be shocked if we ever enjoy a traditional style Assassin's Creed game ever again.
Yeah, well, it's going to be that sort of thing where it's going to be up to other bolder, daring, creative, not following the pack developers to create spiritual successors to these things.
Yep.
Which, if that's the way it's got to be, that's the way it's got to be. I mean, obviously, for the likes of Dead Space, they're doing the Callisto Protocol, spiritual successors. I'm trying to tie this together because they are reportedly bringing back Dead Space, EA, but also that wouldn't be surprised if they actually ruined that in some EA/Ubisoft way, like they did with Mirror's Edge, by the way, not least because what did they do? They turned it into an open world game, right? Didn't need to be done. The first game, but I actually played a bit more of the first Mirror's Edge again recently, and just reminded myself how magic it is. Honestly, those are like Dead Space 1 and 2, Mirror's Edge, they still hold up to me. Mm-hmm. Like they really do. They're just so pure and simple and just brilliant. And and Dead Space 3 killed Dead Space, and Mirror's Edge Catalyst killed it. And that's just unfortunately a trend that happens in the industry too often. But the thing is, the audiences, to me, are just far too willing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's all, we're sacrificing artistic quality in the name of content. And I can't help but always think the line of Bo Burnham keeps playing in my head when I think about these types of topics, in terms of like, Daddy made you some content, open wide.
Yeah.
Like that's what's happening.
That is.
Why as gamers are we so willing to just accept content over quality? Like, I just don't understand.
Well, so the thoughts I had when I was sort of thinking of these sort of recent generations of AC games, really, when they came out with Origins, and there was a little bit of it with Unity and Syndicate. However, I mean, the thing I remember most with Unity is you opened up the pause menu and it was just like, there's so many icons on the screen, but it's still
terrifying.
It's still, looking back on it, is a much more approachable.
It still held on to a lot of the elements that we enjoyed about it.
Yeah.
It was still palatable, but yeah, I remember.
Was that kind of the beginning of the decline for you a little bit?
Well, you see, I think it was a weird time, right? Because Black Flag was huge for its time. I thought it balanced it really well, though.
Yeah.
You kind of, something about the pirate faring and the spirit of that game drove me on to want to do.
You were doing a much more sort of varied, different gameplay mechanics. You weren't always doing the exact same thing.
It was all tied together really nicely. It somehow just felt more meaningful.
Yeah.
Going through all that stuff. But yeah, when Unity came out, it was kind of like, and you're first met with that map, and it's just immediate. It's not even like you unlock these things; they're just immediately there. It's just like, what's going on? And there kind of was almost like this odd, disconnected, soulless microtransaction almost element to it right from the off. Like like Unity just kind of allowed you to do things right away. And I just remember thinking that was really odd. And yeah, just far too many icons on the map. Just like, what is going on here? I can't even see anything underneath.
Yeah. But
ridiculous.
If you would ask me, what would you rather play, Unity or Valhalla? I'll take Unity every day of the week.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So,
absolutely, because we're talking about a 7-year-old game now at this point.
Yeah, for sure. So it's one of those ones like, I'm thinking of these newer games, and Origins, I played through the full story, but it was a definite slog, and I brought it up in the podcast before, but I do want to make sure that I'm hitting all the points, even if you've heard them before, just so this
slog is a key word.
Well, this is just like, I want this episode to be a one-stop shop for our opinions here. It introduced the XP booster microtransaction, right? For like £9 you were getting like double XP on everything you earned, which pretty much meant you didn't need to slog through the side missions, which shows that the developers knew that it was a slog. I mean, they knew that is artificial game length. That's artificial game length for sure. Someone who tells me that Odyssey is an incredible 100-hour RPG in comparison to, which is interesting, I'll kind of bring this up, to like The Witcher 3.
Yes, Witcher 3, yes.
Which, by all arguments, is a question mark on the map, bloated thing, but it worked better in that game than Odyssey, because at least a lot of its side missions, some of them were a little bit copy paste. That's fine, but there was interesting characters. There was storylines to follow in a lot of the side content as well, or just characters that you kind of got to know. It definitely didn't feel as much of a slog than Assassin's Creed, purely because their side content is so copy paste or so sort of just dull. And there was a TikTok I saw. I wouldn't know it word for word, but it's you need to go and complete this side mission. How far away is it? And it's far enough away that you far enough away that you can't walk there, but not far away that like fast travel loading is worthwhile. It's like this, like just far enough away that you would like have to like go there by a horse or something. It was like, just all these things to really just pad the length of the game. So I don't see Assassin's Creed Odyssey as a 100-hour game. I see it as a 60-hour game if you pay extra money for it to be a more concise 60-hour game, which is just atrocious. That is I cannot support that. I couldn't buy that, couldn't bring myself, and it's not even that expensive, but it's the principle behind the thing. So Assassin's Creed's so long gone, but
I would say it's far too expensive for what it is.
Oh, no, but it is far too expensive for what it is. But that's 2 cups of coffee. Like that's the argument I'm kind of thinking. But you know what I mean. So it's not that. I mean, it is too expensive. It shouldn't even be a thing. But I mean, another big thing with Odyssey that for me was that it came out before, like 2 weeks before Red Dead 2. But I was actually having a scroll through my sort of. Kerry and I were looking at like how long we've played games for on the PS5 because it breaks it down, and I played Odyssey for 26 hours, and I was nowhere near completing it, which is just disgusting. Ugh. And they really lured me into that false sense of security. Again, I might have said this before. I know I've told you this before, but was like the first 12 hours was like story mission, smaller island. Oh, this is great. This is really focused, and then I hit level 12 at about the 12-hour mark. Maybe a little bit less than that. Maybe not level 12 or whatever, but let's say for sake of argument it was level 12. And then the next story mission was like level 18, and I was like, oh, here we go. That's it. You've lured me into that false sense of security where I'm going, yeah, I'm getting this. This feels better. This is good. And then they just halt you in your tracks and then make you go and find somebody's goat or something like that for like the 40th time. You know what I mean? Like, please, my goat. And it's also, I'm sorry, Assassin's Creed Odyssey is not an Assassin's Creed game. It is a Spartan Greek game. There's just no like assassin quality to it. There was a little bit more with Origins, but in Valhalla it's a Viking game. It's not an assassin's game. You're a Viking. You're not an assassin. I'm sorry. You could shout till the cows come home that you are, and you could tell me that the assassins are in it, but it's not the same. But the point I wanted to make, was, are we looking at this from we are not so casual gamers, as the name suggests, to your more casual gamer? Is there a value proposition with something like this? My brother has a kid.
I was literally just thinking that. Yeah.
My brother has a kid, and he's got a busy job. He loved Odyssey. He loves that Greek sort of Spartan era as well. So it was definitely more up his street for that. He doesn't have a history with Assassin's Creed the way that we do. He's played a couple of them here and there. I think he played one and then played Black Flag, and then that was it. Do you know what I mean? Like, he really didn't play many of them. It was just the one that was out as and when he had time to play an Assassin's Creed game, and he loved it, and he was happy with the side content, and he was happy with this and that. So are we looking at this from the minority lens here? And I think we are, but that's the lens that we need to look at it, because that's the way we play games, and that's absolutely, this is our podcast. We're going to talk about the games the way we play games, for sure. So that is important. Such an interesting thing about this medium, is because it as an art form, it can be viewed in multiple lenses, because totally the more casual of players kind of just want to use these games to switch off and just run around and do like clean up jobs and not actually think about the missions that they're doing. They just do it because they're playing a game, and it's kind of it doesn't even occur to them that they would be getting like good storytelling or good cinematography happening in their games, like what we sort of strive for a lot of the time. Mm-hmm.
And I guess I hadn't actually considered that so much, because of course it's valid. There's a place for that.
Yep.
I suppose my grief comes from the fact that like I don't feel as if there's enough of a community of gamers that are kind of talking about it the way that we or possibly more to the extent I do, in terms of being very kind of like, oh, you're so artsy fartsy, fucking snob, get out of here. Like, and And I can definitely see myself as that, but I also think it is also valid. I don't know. It's a weird one because yeah, you could understand it, but I also hate it. And what do we do about that?
That's the thing. I don't know the answer. Like we're obviously pining for the Assassin's Creed of old, but see if we got it. Would you?
But I try not to. I try not to say that we're so similar a lot of the time, because as we lay out quite often, you're more into shooters and quote unquote gamier stuff, probably more so than I am.
Yeah, I think I don't mean that. I don't mean this is like, oh, I appreciate more things than you. I don't mean it like that. But I will still enjoy an open world, longer game. I'll still enjoy a shooter. But I'll still enjoy an artsy-fartsy kind of, thing as well. Now that makes it sound like I've got a much broader palette than yourself, and that is not the case. I don't mean it like that. But yeah, I do enjoy a game. As much.
Go play the Swapper, then come back to me, bitch.
I've played the Swapper. I played it on the Vita.
You?
Yeah, played it on the Vita.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
Did you like it?
Yeah, enjoyed it. Yeah, it was good.
Did you finish it?
I don't think I finished it. No. I probably played 6 or 7 hours, or I don't even remember. Anyway, I still enjoyed it. I enjoyed the sort of aspect of it. But no, like, for example, we can compare like Odyssey to a game. Now, I know you will also say this game's too bloated, but to Red Dead Redemption 2, but that to me is not.
Okay, I wrote something down about that. I think, what did I put down here? Let me just.
Let me shake my notes. They're my digital notes.
Okay, I actually thought Red Dead 2 was in danger of being too bloated.
Interesting.
I actually got away with it. It got away with it just because, well, come on, it's Rockstar.
Well, it's the level of detail. That's the thing. Like, you compare something like
sheer quality
something
of
it. Like compare Saint Denis to Athens in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and it's night and day. That it's a bustling town. There's townspeople milling about, but in you're at this booming marketplace in Athens, which in real life would have been a hub of hustle and bustle, and in the game, because they strived for massive maps, like the density of people was missing. You can expect that a little bit more in an Assassin's Creed 2 and in an older hardware. On older hardware, sorry. But then, like, Assassin's Creed Unity, we bring that up again, was quite famous for depicting the French Revolution, the crowds of people in the street that you had to sort of move through, and that's why you would take to the rooftops a lot more, because it was so packed and you could go in and out of buildings more. Whereas, but because of that, obviously it had its technical problems. I do understand that. I'll preface it by saying I really didn't have many myself when I played through it, so I'm only going by my own experience here. That to compare the two, I would much rather have a slightly smaller map, but have it be a bit more living and breathing than sort of ancient Greece, where the most densely packed places are the enemy camps that are copied and pasted that you need to just take out. That's
totally
it, and the difficulty spike in those games are not from new enemy types being introduced. It's just that the level cap on that enemy is higher than yours. So there you go. There's your difficulty. It's not.
Yeah, no, I think for me, and even when it comes to something like, obviously, comparing that to Red Dead 2, the difference in quality is because they can back up making the scale of their thing so big, and when you come across things, it really does feel meaningful, almost every time, because Rockstar are just that good at executing such big things. But I think for me, even I've got to a point where I'm okay with not actually even experiencing that much of Red Dead 2. Because I don't have the patience anymore. Like I keep saying, I'm jumping on to the next thing. Like if I'm in a game now for more than 10 hours, I start to get antsy. It really has to.
It's a shame to me, because you're going to be missing out on a lot of stellar stuff, in my humble opinion.
To me, there's too many huge games now. There's too many. Like, only to me, it's like, only do it if it's all going to be quality the whole way through, like Witcher 3 and Red Dead 2.
Yep.
Those are perfect examples of enormous games. But even now, I'm so fatigued by bloat that I'm just not even willing to commit to any of them now. I mean, some of them that I really want to play, that I'll spend the necessary hours to finish the story. That's ultimately what I'm gonna do. Like, that's all I care about. Like, give me your main meal. You know, even if your side stuff is good, I'm probably still not going to play it because I don't have the patience anymore.
Well, what's interesting with that is that I feel like the games. Let's stick on the open world thing. The open world games that, in my opinion, do it perfectly for me. Funnily enough, let's bring out our Sony ponies here. Are
Spider-Man.
Well, the Sony open world games, minus Days Gone. Right, let's talk about Days Gone. No, I'm just kidding. That is being a dead horse right there.
It's just a bad one, okay.
But my three platinums that I've like worked towards, that I've actively kind of worked towards, is Spider-Man, is Horizon, and Ghost of Tsushima. Those are the three.
Oh, they're definitely on the better side of things, for sure.
But they are, you could golden path those games, but though the side content, I mean, the fact of the matter is, I think in all of them, even with the platinum, you're still sitting at only around 40 hours, compared to completing the story in Odyssey is like 80. You know what I mean? Just to complete the story. I mean, that's
what it should be. You know.
Oh yeah, no,
you're totally right. The
Sony first party open world games are 25 to 30 hour experiences with about a 10-hour platinum run after the fact, if you don't decide to tidy things up on the way, which for Ghost of Tsushima I was doing. I was kind of, I wasn't really moving on to the next area, sort of split into three sort of sections of the island. I wasn't really moving on until I'd sort of ticked everything off. But, Spider-Man, I didn't do that. Horizon, I didn't do that as much. And those were like, so I was still, what's the best way to put it? There was only one moment in those three games, and it was with Spider-Man, that I was like, right, I'm ready for this platinum to pop now, and it hadn't quite. And it was just tidying up the random encounter crimes in the different districts, because you really just had to swing about until they spawned. So that was a little bit more of like just, put a podcast on and kind of treat it like a chore. But that was the only... Sorry, actually, I've also platinumed Miles Morales, but that was a considerably shorter experience to do so. But that's the only time it's ever really felt like a chore in those games. None of the other ones were. So that's like an open world game that I feel is the perfect length, and I feel like would and kind of is more the perfect length as an open world game for you, because you've played those games. You played and fairly recently. It's not to say that you maybe don't wish they were over a little bit sooner. That's absolutely understandable. But I think in comparison to the likes of an Assassin's Creed, modern Assassin's Creed game, I feel like they are definitely the perfect length for me, who would like to complete it fully, and you, who would like to just play the story, which is nice.
Hey, if all open world games were the size of Miles Morales, maybe I'd like 90% plus them every time, but it's not going to happen, is it?
Yeah. So that's my kind of comparisons that I make. Rockstar games, GTA is, so infinitely replayable with its kind of sandbox element that it gets away with, with. Again, it's the detail, it's the quality behind it. So,
well, they're just in a league of its own. Like, everybody needs to. Rockstar is kind of the ultimate zeitgeist games. Everyone needs to experience the detail that they put into they truly do craft living, alive worlds, and just, well, everything else that goes into those games, the comedy and everything, is just pure quality. So you just have to, even if you don't take it all in, taking enough of it in is a pleasure every time anyway.
Definitely.
And, I would say, like, well, obviously, their most recent example of GTA is now quite old, but even to this day, I'd say that's probably quite a good example of a sort of big-ish game that is well balanced. It's
got enough variety in there. You're doing something different all the time.
Yeah. For me, anyway. But it remains to be seen whether 6 will be bitten by the bloated bug and annoy me. That remains to be seen in 5 years' time, whenever that comes out, whatever. I think really for me, it's like I want to be held by a story in a game, right? I don't want it to become a slog where it's coming towards the end. I'm like, well, I just don't care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't care to actually finish your game because I'm so burnt out by this experience. Like, I don't care what you have to say. Which, for as we've ranted about before, a lot of games, they don't have much to say anyway.
Yeah.
Which is why, for me, the importance of story is so high. It's like, to what end am I playing this game if I'm just burnt out and not caring about the end point anyway?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
That's kind of what I'm getting at here. Another sort of, just on the kind of similar GTA thread, whatever, another example, kind of hilarious recent example, Cyberpunk. Their ambition was so to such an extent that they literally it killed itself.
Yeah,
it was so big it killed itself.
Yeah,
to me that's hilarious because that proves me right. Do you know what I mean? Like,
for sure, it's
too big.
Yeah, no, but that that's the thing. It is too big, and they overpromise, they overhype, that's just a mess though. Like I just don't see how that's really going to get fixed. At its core.
I'm sure there's some really cool, good stuff in there, but I will never care to see it because I'm not wading through the rest of their stuff that it's too big to me. Like, I know we keep saying how we love Witcher 3, but I feel like this is just, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's the same scale as Witcher 3, but then Witcher 3 was 6 years ago and I was more willing then.
Well, that's it, exactly. So we've
I'm just not as willing
no
now.
I get that, and it's a time and place thing, because maybe, to be honest, you would look at something like Black Flag now through your current lens if it was the first time it was plonked down in front of you and write it off.
Well, I tried to play Rogue at the start of lockdown before the PS5. I was like, I want something to play. I've just got so much time on my hands or whatever. And I was like, well, I never did play Rogue, and Black Flag was always my favourite. Maybe this will be an enjoyable sort of slightly retro romp. No, I was bored to tears immediately. I was like, this was a bad purchasing decision.
Bad call.
It had aged. It was not interesting. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I guess Sea of Thieves will be our next pirating experiment. Whether that experiment works out remains to be seen.
I don't know. Well,
I'm not so sure, but we'll give it a shot.
I know. I was kind of more hyped on it until I kind of saw what it was a bit more.
Shall we just not then? Because I don't care.
If you
don't care. If I never play Sea of Thieves, I think I could probably die happy.
We'll think about it. We'll discuss that off air.
I know it's a slight tangent, but that could be a case of Xbox or fanboys grasping onto anything and being like, "We promise it's good. It's good. We love it. We're putting hundreds of hours in to come and play it." It's actually not that good.
Well, what have you got? What have you got next on your notes? Because what we need to make sure is, Lewis, that this episode doesn't become too bloated either, and ironically,
that would be such a good irony, to the point where the sadist in me almost wants to do it, but
I've got things to do today. No, I'm good.
I honestly, I've got so many notes. I could do my kind of quick fire thing that I do. Like, let me see how they've been doing, like starting to charge like £100 for like ultimate editions of games these days. Like, I find that offensive. Like Call of Duty and FIFA. It's like the idea that content is king rather than quality.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if I can, and I know that it's kids that are driving this market. I know this. Kids are obsessed with the FIFA player packs, and they just
No, they
Ultimate Team £100 Ultimate Edition for FIFA 22 that's coming out. I can just get such a big head start on all my friends opening the packs, and that gives them their thrill. And this is just the world we live in, but I'm going to keep ranting about the industry anyway.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like we can talk a little bit
because I need to fight for my quarter of what I like and what I think games can be.
Yeah.
I don't want it to just be swallowed by the content is king machine, you know.
Well, I think you brought up Call of Duty there. I think as much as I do enjoy Warzone, it's that free to play nature.
Well, I feel like you enjoy COD from a bit of a different angle.
Yes.
From the kids.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like I have Cold War, Black Ops Cold War, and that's I played quite a bit of it, in fairness, but it's definitely it's one of these things. It's not Call of Duty that has grabbed me for 900 hours or something. It's Warzone. It is its own thing, but in all of the in let's say maybe 10 of those 900 hours has been by myself. It's purely a social thing. Do you know what I mean? It's always with someone else. So that's kind of the lens I kind of look at it through. A lot of Cold War, was spent playing a bit of zombies, which was a fun experience, but ultimately it lost its appeal fairly quickly. Multiplayer maps lost their appeal fairly quickly. Definitely, a game like that isn't holding me for a year-long cycle. So I could argue that they're sort of throwing a lot of things in there, and every new season they're putting new maps in, and I really like the way they're doing it now, because it used to be paid for DLC map packs and things like that, but now everyone's getting the maps as and when they load, they release them, which I do like. But more the more and more time that I've spent away from something like Cold War, the more I'm like almost overwhelmed when I go back into it, and the amount of things that say new next to it, and the amount of pop-up screens and this and that, and you're like, oh my goodness, there's so much going on here. And then the reason I wanted to bring this up is because as I was saying, I had a night with a friend of mine playing Halo multiplayer, playing Reach multiplayer, and I was just shocked at how much I enjoyed it. Like I thought I would kind of just go like, I want to see this from a historian's point of view, not a nostalgic point of view, because I don't have that there. And just the idea of having a laugh and like running away from the enemy and like ooh, just like it was just a total like a mess. Like I was terrible at it, but I was having fun. It was its simplicity, and that was in the Master Chief Collection that boasts, giving you every single game and all their, remastered permutations. Oh, you can play the classic maps. Oh, you can play the new maps. You can, like there is arguably so much in that game, but it's so easy to just strip it back to simple. Like, there you go. Original game, original maps, jump in with your pals and have fun. That's it. You know what I mean? Like it's so, multiplayer games, as much as I still, I've even enjoyed them more now than really ever before, are very hard to invest time into like any other modern multiplayer game. If you're a Warzone player, I'm sorry, you're not going to be a Fortnite player. You're not going to be an Apex Legends player, because you need to, if you're a Destiny player, you're not then going to go and play Marvel's Avengers. But to be honest, if you're anyone, you shouldn't be playing Marvel's Avengers anyway. So like, but like there's so many sort of these like copycat games that are, like you're saying, they're valuing quantity over quality, that these games are full-time jobs for people, like a lot of the time. You're not.
Yeah.
I think of and there would have been a point in time that had been, with Kerry's sister plays a lot of Destiny. I think she's on like 1,400 hours, right?
Oh my goodness.
But right, okay, I would have said that as well, but that's since 2017. I've got almost 1,000 hours in Warzone in 11 months. So put that into perspective there. So actually, That's
Yes.
not like there would have been a time where I'd go, oh my goodness, Claire, how many hours? And now I don't have a leg to stand on. That's not that's not a fair point to make. But that's her game, and she's got the crew of people that play with her, and I think that's awesome. But it's meaning that there's not too much out with that she would be playing, which is absolutely fine. Richard, who we play with, he's said himself, it really is all that he's played in the past year is really just Warzone. It's not, I'm not saying that I wouldn't in any way, shape or form call him a casual gamer because of how many hours he's put into this game, and the same with Claire, I wouldn't say that, the same, but it's just a different way of consuming games than the way that we, and more so you now, would have done. I feel like I'm slightly in between because I'm still playing a lot of other games as well, but that just shows that this has been a year of a pandemic and I've got time to play the multiplayer games that people call a full-time job and the single-player games that I do still love equally. So, or, maybe more so as well, but it's just kind of looking at them from a different way. So are games like Destiny 2 bloated? Maybe to a newcomer now, yes, but to Claire, who's played it since day one, no, because the expansion pass that comes along hits at the right time. She's looking for new content. Then that's perfect. You know what I mean? So it's I get, we talk about Sea of Thieves. We talked about all these things. Like. There's videos like, is it good to jump into Sea of Thieves in 2021? You know what I mean? Like that's a video that needs to be made, like beginner's tips for this game, because they are, by our definition, so bloated. But are they really though? If that's your thing, that's the kind of the most interesting point I felt about this. For a game like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, that is a package minus its DLC, because it's still too bloated even without its DLC packs.
It's a different question.
Because a live service game. So, could you argue? This is me playing devil's advocate here, because I don't think it's going to be the case. That Assassin's Creed Infinity, or whatever the code name, might be. If I'm not saying we're going to, if you invested in day one, that could be the best way going forward for Assassin's Creed. You never know. I don't think it's going to be. I'm purely playing devil's advocate here, but
I get what you're saying totally, and there will be a market for it, and like we say, this is why it's so complicated to unpack all of this, because there's so many different shades of gamer.
Yep.
And nobody can agree on what's good and what's right anymore. But
back in my day, it was just Mario. Just Mario. That was good.
Simpler times.
Simpler times.
I think the reason that I'm just assuming that this is not going to be something that will give me immersive quality.
Oh, no.
Like single player based Assassin's Creed gaming experience.
Oh no,
with intriguing storytelling and well crafted missions and stuff. I'm assuming it's just not going to give me that. Could be totally wrong. Could be some sort of weird live service modular thing that, oh guy, you've got to play this. It's like your new favorite TV show. You won't want to miss what's coming next in Assassin's Creed Infinity. Woo! It's not going to happen.
It's one of those ones where
for the way that we want it.
They would,
for those who enjoy, like we said earlier, like switching off while playing their games and just to sound harsh again, playing games for the sake of playing games, then go for it. Like if that's your product, then have fun.
Yeah, I think there's they would really have to drastically rethink how live service model games work for it to work for us. For there to be effectively the Assassin's Creed is almost future-proofed by this game, and they're effectively releasing new campaigns rather than. But what it's going to be is an open world game, a shared open world space that you can matchmake with friends. There's going to be live events where you need to go and assassinate a target, and the first one there wins. And you're just going to go to an area and you're going to clear out a camp. That's if they don't revolutionize what live service gaming is, that's what it's going to be. It's going to copy Destiny, most likely. It's going to have live service events and smaller missions out in the open world where you just will make your way through a linear bit. You go off the path of an open world and you head to a slightly more linear area in that open world and clear out the enemies as you go through and loot a chest at the end or something like that. Or it's going to have the I don't even know what they're called, but the sort of, they're not raids. The raids are like the massive like 6-hour undertakings that you need to do with a bunch of people, which is quite interesting. I like that aspect of kind of setting up for a raid. I can't even remember what they're called.
It's a commitment.
Yeah, it's a commitment, but I can't even remember what they're called. But there's missions in Destiny that are kind of replayable that sort of transport you to a very specific, almost story-based mission that ends in a big boss battle. Maybe Assassin's Creed's going to do a little bit of that, but what is a boss battle to Assassin's Creed? That's not a thing, really. I mean, you could argue that maybe in these newer games where it is sort of combat focused and not Assassin's focused, yeah, your boss battle is just the guy swinging a big mace around or whatever. That's a tank that takes more sword hits to kill. Wow,
what I mean? We've never seen that before.
I know, and that's why they would have to break the mold of the live service game to make this even remotely interesting for me. But it's their first game using the live service mold, so they're not going to. Does that make sense? Like, it's running off of the IP, and it's just going to be a carbon copy. Avengers didn't work, and that was Marvel's Avengers license. It was a carbon copy, and it didn't work. So, I mean, maybe they'll learn from that, but I just don't know. There's very little that there's like a something I've got in my head that would work for me for this, but it's not going to happen. Do you know what I mean? And that is like, here's a new campaign. This engine that we've built for this game is going to support us for years to come. So rather than buy this new game, here is a new campaign, and there's cinematic story missions and action. Maybe not action set pieces, but you know what I mean. Like, the sort of memorable parts and from old Assassin's Creed games that stand out. So, but it's just not going to be that, and there's going to be. To me,
well, yeah. Thing is, like, to me, I just keep coming back to the point. Like, I can idealize about what it could be and appeal to me with, but I keep coming back to the same sentiment of, just by the very virtue of them trying to create this different, unique platform for it, and the focus being all on that and the systems and how it all works, strips out the drive for like the creativity that could go into the actual like process of playing it, like giving us something different to see other than it just being like by the numbers sort of action video game stuff.
Yep.
Like, that's not good enough for me. Like, if it's okay, here is a single player chunk of and it's got cutscenes, and I'm like, yeah, but are they any good?
That's true. Yeah, I mean, because they're gonna.
It's not enough. It's not enough that they're going to give us it. It's like, well,
that's
no,
true.
I don't care. I don't care if it's not any good. Like,
yeah, because you could argue that by designing the world that they're saying is going to be like ever changing. I mean, we still have no idea what it really is, but if they're going by what they're kind of suggesting of it being a live service game, there's only so much that they can do in a relatively fixed location. Of course, they can change the location up a little bit. They can, introduce, this building was under construction at the beginning of the game and now it's built, and go and visit it and there's a mission there. I mean, like, that's not... There's only so much that they can do without... And so then you go, well, building a game from the ground up that's specifically designed for the story that you want to tell, with environmental storytelling that is, specific to that game, then you're convincing me more. I was convinced myself that this would not work for me, but there was like a sort of that stupid little bit of hope that it could. But nah, you've convinced me. You've made me as cynical as you are,
Well,
and that's fine.
I mean, they say, it's I think they were saying 2024 anyway. So let's not talk about Assassin's Creed again until then.
I just picked up Assassin's Creed Valhalla on sale, and I'm loving it.
I can't believe you've done this. Right.
Can't believe you've done this.
What time are we at?
We're at an hour 15. Hour 15.
Okay. Oh my god, I still had so many other examples. Obviously, I'm gonna make sure I get in this other one because I know that it's gonna evoke something in you.
Oh.
Just a kind of example of disappointment that I had in recent years, and that's Kojima's recent games. Okay. Because I think he was bitten by the
wrong.
Okay,
no,
well,
that's fine. Because I agree with you with Metal Gear Solid 5, and that's fine.
And I think actually, yeah, it is more Metal Gear Solid 5 for me because obviously I was a big fan of 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
So when 5 was coming out, it was like pretty exciting. But when I found out that it was open world, I was like, the alarm bells did start to go off. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, well, let's see what he can do with that.
Yep.
And then finding out that, oh, right, yeah, the scope of this game is outrageous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I guess, in a way that is quite Kojima-esque, but I couldn't help but at every point of the way just thinking, you've taken this too far.
You've taken this too far, mate.
Like, and actually, even when it comes to like the sort of Kojima weirdness and stuff, I applied that to that as well. I'm just like, you've taken this too far. Well, actually, no, maybe not, because actually, when you think of the weirdness that went on in 3 and 4, 5 was maybe, I don't know. It's interesting because the weirdness comes from different places, I think.
Yeah.
And obviously in Death Stranding, it's all about the weirdness.
Well, that's exactly, absolutely. I mean, if I'll give you my experience of MGS5.
I just think it was a bit too. Oh, sorry. Well, I was just going to say for Death Stranding, we don't need to talk too much about that because we have talked about it a lot. Yeah. But I just think for me, it was just a bit boring for what it was. I was like, this isn't the core mechanic. I thought of the balancing thing. I thought was actually really quite interesting, and I liked it. But the scope of the game and how it tied that together for me was just it didn't hold my interest.
Fair.
But that was the only
Fair.
I just couldn't stick with it.
For Death Stranding, I don't know. There was obviously like the balance mechanic, and it was very weird. I liked the mystery of it. I was quite excited always to kind of get to the sort of the next area with it. But I also loved the social aspect. The building of the roads and ladders being left, and
that was cool. That was definitely cool.
I was always like spurred on by that. If I was ever like struggling, and then I saw, oh my goodness, there's like someone's put a ladder there. Oh my goodness, that's so like helpful.
That's definitely good.
That's kind of what kind of kept me going with that game. But with Metal Gear Solid 5, I it was a PlayStation Plus game. I jumped into it. I mean, obviously not knowing like anything, about Metal Gear. I knew a little bit here and there. I'd kind of watched a few videos, here and there, because I knew I wasn't going to go back. I tried and went back and played, and it was just too much. So, played the first opening scene. That whole bit in the hospital, and you're crawling under the bed, and there's like flames. I'm like, this is
great.
This
first
is
impression.
cool. I am into this. And then you get out into this beige open world, and I went, oh no, and I turned the game off and deleted it. Like that was that was my, like, I zoomed out on the map. I tried the first mission and went, oh my goodness, I hate this so much. Like, just do not like this. So
the thing is, right, I wouldn't have even had such a problem with it being a big open world Metal Gear as if when you got to each area, it was unique and turned into like a set piece that was like, okay, right, got to make it through this area and then you can move on to, like, that would have been
which
good.
Is how they did it in Red Dead Redemption 2, because you could go out into the world, but the way that the story took you moving from camp to camp, I purposely didn't go out of my way so I could experience those new biomes effectively. when the camp moved with the camp. I loved that. The first time you go to Saint Denis is part of the story. I was so glad I played it that way for me personally, because there was variation.
How Rockstar handles their pacing and stuff like that is masterful, and actually, it's unquestionable. It's like you can't. It's almost like apples and oranges. Yeah. But the thing with MGS5 is that there was so much rinse and repeat. Like, I was shocked. I was like, what the hell? Like, why? No, but like literally, because in order to grind, to be able to get to a certain level of something, or to be able to get to see a bit that you had to grind, right? But what happened was it would literally recycle side missions.
Oh.
But in a different area, it would be, but areas would be copy and pasted.
Oh.
And when I realized this, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to be doing like this exact mission over and over again." I was like, "No. The magic of the Metal Gear Solid games for me was the linearity of coming to the next area and it being like this unique way of stealthily getting round this level and doing it in this kind of weird ass Kojima way, and that just seemed to be gone from MGS5, and that's why this was, I think, when I really started to have this dissonance between me and mainstream gaming media and commenters and people at large, because everyone seemed to love that game.
Yeah,
and I was like, how? What is it that you're loving so much about this boring ass open world game?
I mean, it was getting 10 out of 10, wasn't it? That was a...
Clearly I missed it, right? Clearly I missed the point that I was not playing that game the way it was supposed to be played, but I was so disappointed.
I don't think you're alone, though. I don't think you're alone. Like, even, my... Richard in work, we've spoken about before, being a massive Metal Gear fan, and much the same as you, it was the open world fatigue of that game was what really kind of... In the fact that it was fairly unfinished, it was all the beef with Konami at the time and everything. There was a sort of, there was almost a melting pot of problems with it that allowed it just not to stand out, and that's the way it is. But
I think a big part of it's the way it's designed, though, is, again, as controversial as this may sound, I think a lot of it comes down to Kojima's hubris up to that point. I think that was his magnum opus up to that point. He was like saying, look what I can do, sort of thing. And to me, it's like the sooner that he just does his horror game, the better in my eyes. Yeah.
Well, that's what you would think that. You would think that, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's what I want.
And what else? What else have you got for me?
Oh, God, we really could go 2.5 hours here, but we'll not, just for everyone else's sanity. What else is? I mean, I've kind of covered most of everything else. Is kind of just like scraps of examples that tie into the main narrative that I have going on here. Just too many options in games. That comes down to like things in settings as well. Mm-hmm. Like I'm a big proponent of like just give us your game.
Yeah,
and it works. Like, what if something doesn't work? That is at the behest of and the problem of the player and your TV. Like don't give us options to change and mutilate your game. Like, give us your game.
Yeah, that's fair.
Do you know what I mean? Like, because I remember my first thingy of being aware of this was actually FIFA, because it gives you like a million sliders, like gameplay modifiers and sliders and things to change the game, and I'm just like, no, make your football game and we have to enjoy it for what it is. Yeah. Like, create a good football game. Don't let us butcher it with sliders and.
You could argue there's a bit of that, and they reset your settings with every COD update these days, and you're like, right, if you put your ADS multiplier zoom to 0.085,
because I am who I am, and obviously you feel very differently about this, and a lot of the time options is king, but I feel the same way in Warzone. I'm just like, why can't they just tell us how it should be played? Like, don't give us the option to, like, the field of view that they set is the field of view that you need to play the game in.
Yeah, but
that's what I believe.
Yeah, that's. But
that's just me.
That's fair. Like, that's competitive multiplayer games, though. In a nutshell, everyone has their preference.
Different
and
world.
I think it's fair. Like controller configurations, Southpaw, all that stuff. That makes sense. Like making it accessible to. But what about
certain fundamental
you talk
things,
about accessibility. What about? I mean, Last of Us Part 2 was praised for its accessibility. Is that too many options for yourself, or is that?
Well, no, but I mean, accessibility is different though, because I mean that was more about accommodating like actual like disabled people.
Yeah, but there was also like for every difficulty you could then go into. Did this in Tomb Raider as well. You could go into different elements of the game and turn the difficulty down for combat, but not for ammo resupply and stuff.
No, not a fan. But at the same time,
but you could avoid it because you just clicked.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, there is default options, and if most of the time it will make sense to just leave it at the default, and I don't actually have to think about it.
But it's when you don't. It's when you can't, visually with like an HDR setting or something that. That's when it's kind of griping a bit more.
Yeah, well, my biggest one, I think, for that, and I've not talked too much about my extreme dorkalism. In terms of, I'm quite into display technology, TVs, like how they work, all the lingo and what have you. It's extremely sad to most people.
Gamma.
I don't talk about it too much to most people because, I would be more vilified, I think, because it's just really so intensely dorky that I got so into this stuff, and I'm now so aware of it, and I kind of know what's going on. And my thing is that in games, they shouldn't even give you the option to change how they give you gamma settings, and sometimes in games they give you like the full rundown of like TV settings, but in a game. But they'll call them their own things, so you don't really know what it is.
Oh man, like, and then unless it's turn this until this icon is barely visible and this one isn't and this one is. I have no clue what I'm doing when it comes to that. Like the Halo one is like, look at this image. Is this fine? I'm like, I don't know. Like,
yeah, no, that's totally ridiculous when games ask you to. Okay, is it correct yet? No, that is so stupid.
I don't know.
To me, right, and here's where it's going to make total sense to everyone, and you're going to agree with me forevermore.
Oh.
If your TV, right, is set up and calibrated properly, and I don't even mean like a full calibration for like getting the color accuracy 100% spot on, because most TVs these days, like decent ones that you buy out of the box, the out of box calibration is pretty close to begin with. Okay, so if that's as close as you can actually get it, right, it's set quote unquote properly, and then on the front end of your game console is set properly,
which it has the very easy sort of.
On PlayStation, it's very clear.
Yep.
Xbox, not as clear, but still okay. If those things are working in tandem with each other and are set, and there is a right answer. I'm telling you right now, everybody out there that you don't know about this stuff, there is a right answer. And when you get that right answer on those two things, a game shouldn't actually then do anything.
Yes.
The game should have 100%. Been made, and then it should just run. And then you're then getting the accurate artistic intent of what the developer has created. The developer should not be giving
display because it's,
Yes. Yep. Now, unfortunately, it is more complicated these days with HDR and the variables in it. And I think also game developers just aren't actually quite as wise to it as like film studios are.
It still is relatively new as well. There is that.
For games, it's newer, and I think they just have to get a grasp on it. But then some games, they really do it well, and they're built for HDIG gamma, which I'm not even going to explain what it is.
Higig.
But that's like the gaming standard for HDR sort of gamma curve, and certain games like the new Ratchet and Clank, they have just the one slider brightness, which shouldn't even need to be there because, right in the middle, 50 brightness is the right option.
Yeah.
If you have these things set up and you don't need to touch it, it's correct to begin with.
Yeah.
Because it talks to the console and it talks to the TV, and these developers know what to do in order to get it to that point. But that's a whole other, I think, kettle of fish, which I can do nothing about, and nobody can do anything about it. It's just the way it is, okay? But still annoys me. There you go.
Well, there we go. That's we're at.
It's all on tape now.
That's bang on about an hour and a half here. So let's, unless you've got any more points to make, let's ask the question one more time. Are video games too bloated?
Oh God, yes.
For you. No. I think it comes down to, I think there are definite examples that we've spoken about today. Your AC games your Animal Crossing games, that's what I meant. Your Assassin's Creed games that are definitely too bloated. But then you look at like a live service game that we've spoken about, and if that is your bag and that's your thing, then, and you've been there since day one, then the answer is no. But to a newcomer, yes, there's a lot of variables. But yeah, just stop fluffing your games up. Hey, just stop fluffing your games up. That's why I'm still excited to play Ratchet and Clank. I know I'm still not. I was on my Halo binge. But because it's not too long. Do you know what I mean? People are like, oh,
totally,
it's too short. I'm like, no, probably not.
There's a real game, son.
That Ratchet and Clank there, that's what we call a real game there, son.
That's a real game.
Well,
game trailers be like, it's a co-op open world game. And I'm gone. I'm out of it.
Bye.
I've already, because it's actually, that's kind of a meme, because there's quite a few trailers these days where some sort of gruff voice will say that. It's a co-op open world. I'm checked out already. I'm just like, well, it's not for me then.
Yeah. There's a few of those that the trailers start and I immediately switch off. Whenever there's an anime game trailer and there's like no sound effects but just voice acting and music, like every Kingdom Hearts trailer, I will immediately clock out. We've all got it. Or as we said while we were watching every E3 press conference, it's for someone. That's
totally,
there is the audience. So I can't.
But hey,
it's hard
to
definitively say that games are too bloated. I think there is a subsect of games that, like we said, kind of have moved on from their roots and have added more and more bloat, really kind of for the sake of it. I would say, that they are too bloated, absolutely. But, maybe the definition of a live service game needs to have more content because it's a live service game. That is its own genre now, it's a live service thing, and that's fine. So, I think it's very case by case, but
totally,
you gotta just do you, man. Just do you. Hey, do you?
I mean, if you really want to drive home and highlight just how critical I am, it's partly why I don't rate Last of Us 2 as much as 1, because I just think it's just a little bit too padded. I think it could have been just slightly leaner. But that's
unlike
that's
Abby,
the only,
who is not leaner. She buffer.
Well, she's lean. She's hench.
She's buffer, I would say. Swole.
Yeah.
Right, we're rambling here. Let's call it there. Unless you're if you're happy to. That's of course. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No. I think I've got it pretty much all out there.
So we will never talk about this ever again, right? No, we probably will.
Try not
because
to.
we'll end up playing a game and we'll say we stopped playing it because it was too bloated or something like that, or this game was a perfect length. This game should learn from such things. I'm sure that will come up in conversation. But we'll finish up there just now. But this was the 10th episode. We did it. We got to number 10.
10.
So this is very exciting, and we hope you have enjoyed the ride so far. We've certainly enjoyed kind of learning how this works for us, and kind of sort of recording these episodes, that we'd have been having this hour and a half long conversation, and it would have just been Kerry sitting listening, going, "Can we just get back to Catan, please? Can we just do that? Is that fine?" So now she can just she can choose to listen to this when she wants to, and not have to be subjected to it every time. So no, we do thank you for our regular listeners that are out there that are kind of getting in touch with with us and saying they're enjoying the content, and we hope you continue to listen and tell your friends. And we are
open wide.
Lewis and Sam made you some content open wide. So yeah, enjoy your time, Lewis. I don't really know what you're doing. I was about to say, I was like, enjoy your thing that you're doing, and then I couldn't remember what you said you were doing this week. But yeah,
I don't even know.
Working, right? So yeah, thanks very much for listening. Check us out on the socials, and I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Thank you very much, Lewis. Bye bye.
#never give in.
Power to the people.